Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talk Retail to Me. I'm Dan Wittner. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Parker Avery, and super excited today to have a longtime friend with me, Jim Hall, to join us for a great conversation in run-up here before Christmas and heading into the new year with NRF. Lots and lots of things on the table right now that people in our community, the world of retail, are looking to learn about, looking to discover, looking to innovate. And so Jim and I wanted to get together and have a quick conversation and share with you some of the things we're seeing, some of the things we think you're looking for, and have a fun conversation. So Jim, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Dan. Like you said, we go way, way back. Boy, but what a time we're in right now, right? We're a week and a half out from a major holiday here in December, but we're already in the holiday season. Several have already kicked off. There's a bunch of gift giving happening already. And it's interesting how the consumers are reacting out there. So there is so much going on. It's a great time to be in retail.
And for anybody that isn't aware of Jim and his role, et cetera, Jim is the head of global retail strategy for Blue Yonder, driving so much of what's happening at the Blue Yonder world right now. And I don't know how much you've been on the road lately, Jim, but I think it's a lot given that title.
Yes. It has been a lot, lots of travel, lots of seeing firsthand what's going on out there in the world. So getting to visit customers, but also spending time out in shopping centers and seeing what's happening at distribution centers and fulfillment centers, and just
Awesome.
really trying to keep the fingers on the pulse of what's going on is just obviously a challenge, but I work with a great team, and it is, again, just a lot going on in retail right now, as we're about to chat about.
That's a great segue, right, Jim? In every conversation I'm having right now, there is this, where do I begin with this concept of artificial intelligence, this idea of agentic connectivity? And what are you hearing out there? I wanted to ask you right away, where are you seeing people be successful in the transformation of legacy retail practice into something more AI agentic driven?
So you're spot on. AI is in every conversation, every boardroom that I sit in, every C-suite that I have the conversation with. They're like, how do I make this work? What should I be doing? What should I be focusing on? All of my people are bringing me AI projects. Which of those should I approve? Which shouldn't I? And what I'm finding is there's two key components that if a project has both of these, it's probably going to be a successful project.
Okay.
One is that it's somehow tied to a business outcome. It's very specific to either a cost reduction or a revenue generation or an efficiency gain or something along those lines. And the other is that the users and the team are already involved and engaged in it. It's not an effort to replace people. Literally just last week, had a good conversation with a COO and a CEO. And it's like, every one of your teams that are bringing you AI projects, at the same time during budgeting season, those same folks are asking for more headcount, aren't they?
That's
And
right.
of course, the two of them laugh. I mean, none of us can ever have enough headcount, right? And I'm like, think about AI as those heads that team is looking for. So if you have a team of 20, if you do AI right, that team of 20 can do the work of maybe 30 or 35. It's not that you get rid of the 20. It's just that they just become better at their jobs.
Well, it's the classic case. I mean, that retail is in a constant state of evolution, and evolution means transformation. And, you know, what you're doing today, you should anticipate, if you want a career in retail, that you won't be doing that at some point in the future. And
It's so true.
You know, that is the nature of it. From the days of production lines that had zero automation, zero mechanical anything, to now we see points where we can inject technology into a process, whether it's a manufacturing line or whether it's a demand sensing process, to help us derive a better forecast. And there are always places where you should not do, but at least analyze, where should I inject that technology? Is it the right place? And to your point, in what we do, we see a lot of groups coming in and saying to us, I read the stuff out in the industry right now about how everybody's failing with AI. And our dialogue is, it's not that the technology isn't good technology. It's you haven't thought through the human element that's required to support the technology. And that's another age-old retail problem. Blame the technology, not the people or the process.
That's right. I'm used to how I do it, and I'm used to my spreadsheets. So don't try to force some of that AI stuff on me, and it'll never work. But no, you're right on. I was having one conversation with a large North American grocer that will remain nameless, but you'll all recognize it. But they've come up with this way of using artificial intelligence to see when the system thinks you have inventory, but you actually don't. So it's the age old troubles of ones, tons, and nones that you and I used to do back in the stores back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you can actually use artificial intelligence to find that kind of stuff. Where is there this phantom inventory that's sitting out there that is causing a complete disruption in the replenishment system, but also to your customer? Because you don't have what that customer is looking for and the system thinks you do. Because it ties straight to reducing out of stocks, and that ultimately had a straight line into revenue. And this is now store level, because trying to introduce any new technology at store level, that's never going to work unless the store manager wants it. And the store manager was like, oh my God, I'm in. How quickly can I roll this out to my entire district? And it's taken off.
I think that's great. It ties to the conversations that I'm having almost every day around this idea of the demand signal, the idea of the world has been so dependent on planners deriving what our numbers are. And they've done that historically with historical data. And they get together every Monday morning and they sit down and they say, hey, where are we? How did we miss the numbers? What happened? And we're really seeing that thinking change. And we're seeing people now say, not what did we do wrong? How was our thinking off? It's now, what did we miss in the signal?
Right.
How did the signal output something that didn't give us what we needed? What are the drivers that we need to modify and tweak? Because those drivers are the elements that create the signal. And the signal is now what we rely on to say, this is the forecast, this is our demand. And that seems to be the evolving conversation. How do we keep working with the model to say, make a better signal, make a better output from a whole range of drivers, internal and external, and come up with better retail magic?
It's so true. Yeah. I use the line all the time. All artificial intelligence is math. It's just a whole lot of math done really, really fast.
Yeah.
And the reason we're at the inflection point we are today is because you now suddenly have super scalable, hyper speed computing, and you've got super scalable, almost infinite data storage. That didn't exist even 5 years ago.
Right.
And now that we have that and we can pull those two pieces together, you can do all of these incredibly fast, incredibly granular pieces of math. And that's what AI is. But if the result isn't right, it just means there was something wrong in the math. You either missed an input or there was something wrong in the math. And so you got to step back and, just like you said, look at the signals. What did we miss? Why did the math spit out this answer when actuality spit out that answer? And chances are it's because we missed something on the inputs. Let's focus on the system and let's focus on those inputs instead of trying to go in and basically blow up and throw the technology out the window. Chances are it was some underpinning signal that we missed.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. And it ties to another area of conversation we have a lot. And this is the evolution of the team, the evolution of skill sets to that. The idea that this is the way I've done it through my career, and I want to continue to do it that way, as opposed to this idea of transforming, this idea of we're going to bring in new data points, new drivers to give us better insights into the future about what the demand is. And it can't always be in that math equation, historical data that are the drivers to a future demand. And I think that really is problematic for folks right now to decide, do I take social signals? Do I take the age-old idea of weather signals? What do I bring together and blend with my historical, with my actual, and say, this is my bet on tomorrow? And it's tough. It's tough. There's no exactness to it. And that's the way retail has
it's ever
always
changing.
been.
That's exactly it. The drivers this week, next week, this time next year, they're probably going to be slightly different drivers on your business. And so it's always an evolving story as well. And again, we use the analogies, and this might even be your analogies. Let's at least hold hands and jump off the cliff together. It's instead of me saying it's this and you saying it's that, and we go our separate ways. How do we all hold hands together? We agree what we think the future looks like. We get to some consensus forecast. We get to some consensus plan. We
Yeah.
know what all went into it. It's got the best thinking from all of our teams. And then reality occurs, and either we got it right or we didn't. And hopefully we got it
Yeah.
right, not only often, but more often than the other guy. And that's how you win in retail.
I couldn't agree more. And how foundational a problem are your clients or your engagements right now in this idea of flawed data, the idea of bad data, incomplete data? We talk about historical data driving the future. We find problems, so it doesn't matter the size of the company. What are you hearing, finding, talking about?
You're spot on. There's data that has been collected over time that people have used to drive manual processes. And
Yeah.
that data, you usually have a pretty decent depth of history on that, but that's not the data you need to drive an automated sequence or AI forecast or a set of automated warehouse management tasking systems. You ultimately do need a different level of both consistency and granularity in that data set. And so a lot, other than some of the basics, I would say like machine learning forecasting is almost a commodity at this point. You and I could probably spend 20 minutes with Python and build a decent forecast. But
That
it comes
sounds
down
really
to,
scary. I'm not sure what I would
right?
generate, but it would.
If you don't have the right attributes, then you're not going to be able to carry that forecast forward. You're not
Yeah.
going to be able to tie that forecast into your assortment conversation, things like
Yeah.
that. Because what we're finding is a lot of our customers are starting to think about their complete data model differently. And I think it's good.
I
Really do have to think about it.
Absolutely. And when we think about that data model and its evolution and back into our world of retail, and you think old school, I've got store clusters, and maybe I define store clusters once a year, or maybe it's 4 times a year around seasons, to now the new thinking is it's completely dynamic. I can move stores around and remodel attribute structures for each of these fours, those key data markers that designate what kind of products, what kind of promotion, et cetera, et cetera. That is a dynamic day in, day out function that needs to be a part of that data strategy. How you think about the store network and the key DNA pieces to each of them, I come back to that word dynamic, has to be foundational in the strategy.
Absolutely. And if you think again, going back prior to all of the stuff we have today, just simply repointing a store from DC1 to DC2
Yeah.
was a massive undertaking. Today, that happens in real time. You dynamically resort, you dynamically reload your trucks. You can use an automated TMS routing system that just basically, this store is now coming from DC7. All right, don't change your thing. Yep. And changing the assortments, changing the profiles in the DC, all of those pieces, it is just so much faster than it ever was, but so much more precise. And that's the magical, let's be efficient, but also let's be accurate while we're at it. And we're finally seeing it. Yeah.
And to the DC element to it, in every engagement we're in right now with the retail community, we've got the concept of store evolution to becoming mini DC, mini fulfillment, spoken hub. So how are you thinking of, if I've got a store classified as a subcluster 3, and now I'm going to consume 40% of that square footage for fulfillment as miniature DC, that store model needs to undergo a completely different
overhaul.
Strategic thinking. And it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing.
A great thing, without a doubt. And you start to see it impacts the labor model. It impacts the fulfillment model, even to the point of we're seeing in some of the commerce side where you can start to make fulfillment decisions on orders in real time as the customer's clicking through on the webpage saying, I want 2 of these, 1 of these, 5 of this, for those. And at some point they click on something that all of a sudden can't get serviced out of store 1. And you just immediately click the order over to store 7. And you can do this because you've got real-time visibility of the inventory, real-time visibility to the labor that can support those fulfillment choices, and real-time pricing and decisioning around how much is it going to cost and how am I going to service this order and all the other stuff. It is a complete different thought. And we are seeing a lot of customers moving toward that store fulfillment model. in real life, they're finding that it's actually less expensive to do store fulfill than it is to
Yeah.
push it up to the DC. It
Yeah.
just is. Yep.
Agreed. And on top of less expensive, typically what we're seeing is that the experience for your customer is actually much better. They're engaging with a store team. They can actually talk through it. When you get into some of the more technical products, something like automotive, you really get a level of expertise with that store associate engaging with you, where you can then call up and say, hey, I just got this part from your store. They can go right into the system and answer questions. Lots of them now we're seeing back within the automotive world. We're seeing groups talking about under 24 hours from order to fulfill. And
Crazy.
it's wild to me. And we're not talking about B2B only. We're talking about Jim Hall's redoing his Ford F-150 from
My
72.
68 MGB, and I
Yeah.
need this very specific size clutch ring. And guess what? Sure, we'll get that to you in 12 hours.
That's right.
It's amazing.
You brought up a really important word, and that's labor. And that right now for us is an evolving theme coming out of all of the different verticals, where how I set standards, how I model my labor, it's a new focus of how do I solve for it, because it's my largest line item in my retail operation. And I know I'm incredibly inefficient. I might be operating on standards that are 10, 15 years old, and I haven't changed those.
Yeah.
Although I'm now working with this store as a fulfillment center, right?
Yes.
Come on.
Yep. Yeah, and you've got multiple skill sets needed now. So you don't just have this person's a stocker and this person's a cashier. It's now a whole suite of different skill sets that you have to keep track of. There's the entire concept of shift marketplace that has just permeated the entire industry now. And so if you're out there as a retailer and you don't have some form of shift marketplace, you're well behind the eight ball, because that's where my daughter has something going on. So I want to put my shift up to bid and see if anybody else wants it. Does the person who won it actually have the skills needed during that window? And how does that tie to our truck schedule? All those pieces now are all enabled by clean, underpinned data, as long as you've got those pieces done correctly. If you haven't done that, a leaky foundation is an unstable house. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I do. Hey, I've got to ask you though, you and I are both getting ready for NRF. I don't even know. Round 20. People ask me how many times I've been, and I shudder and I go, yeah, am I going to get a t-shirt or something that says a 20-year veteran? Or I'm really excited for this year, because I think there are so many interesting companies, innovations that are changing the landscape faster than ever before. And I'm not talking just about OpenAI or Google. There are lots of great companies innovating much of what we're talking about. What are you excited to learn about and see at NRF?
I can't wait, because you're right on. And I think this might actually be number 20 for me. Remember the early ones in the basement of the, what was it, in the W?
God, crazy.
Oh my God, we're getting old, Dan. But no, this year, I'm really thinking we're going to start to see some of these visions really gel into actual proven, hardened, in the market solutions that are now available to actually go out and use. We're seeing it within our company, but we're seeing it in others as well, where it's a year ago, 2 years ago, there was an idea, there was a concept, there was a thought. You start to put some heads against it. 80% of the projects fall away because they either didn't work or it didn't make sense. But I think we're right now starting to break through that barrier where here is a solution that somebody put together that actually is a clean use case that drives core value for retailers. And I think we're going to start to see a lot of that at NRF this year.
Awesome.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, I am as well, Jim, I tell you. And for everyone that's taking the time to give a listen to Jim and I, please come and find us at NRF. Yeah, we'll be in our booths, and we'll pop up those booth numbers here at the end. And please come and say hello. We'd love to carry on the conversation. Jim and I will probably do a little more of this at NRF because it's a lot of fun.
Almost certainly. I can't wait. Dan, it's as always a wonderful time chatting with you. I really appreciate it. And everybody out there, I'll see you at NRF. Have a very happy holiday, however you celebrate.
Exactly. Happy holidays to everybody. Safe and fun New Year, and we'll hopefully see you in New York.
See you in New York.
That's a wrap for this episode of Talk Retail to Me. If you have questions related to today's topic, please visit our website at parkeravery.com to learn more and to contact us. Also, we'd love it if you shared Talk Retail to Me with any of your colleagues. It's streaming on all the major podcast platforms, and the videos are available on our YouTube channel. For more Parker Avery industry expertise and advice, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter.